4 months ago. I was severely addicted to social media, and TikTok was my biggest vice personally. I was so incredibly addicted to it. Social media was ruining my life and I didn't even realize it at the time while I was using it so heavily. I was kind of like oblivious to it, and I thought that it was just like other issues in my life that were causing problems. I really didn't realize how much it was controlling my life until I decided to cut it out of my life. I decided to quit. Yep, I quit. And I'm gonna tell you why I did it, how I did it, and how you can do it too. I'm just drinking a strawberry vanilla latte. It's so good. So grab a drink or a snack and let's talk about it. I feel like so many people are addicted and we kind of just normalize it and we think that it's not really an issue, but I'm gonna tell you why it is a problem and how you can fix it and how we can all fix it and we can actually start living our own lives. Social media encompasses like so many things. I don't want to say I completely cut out all social media because I didn't. The biggest thing for me was TikTok. I was spending so many hours on TikTok every single day. I mean, at least 3 to 4 hours just mindlessly scrolling. It was incorporated into my everyday routine basically, and I just have to scroll on TikTok every single day. It's probably a pretty similar concept for Instagram or other social media apps, but I feel like the biggest ones are TikTok and Instagram. I think TikTok is probably the most addictive app to be on, and so that was the one that I knew that I wanted to cut out of my life because it was the biggest issue for me personally, and I feel like that's probably pretty common, and I think if you clicked on this video you think that it might be a problem for you. So like I said, I was using TikTok for like multiple hours a day, at least like 3 hours every single day, sometimes 2 if I was really busy and doing stuff, and it was basically just a way for me to escape from my life. If you think about it, it's really sad. It's really a way for me to feel like I was keeping busy, just consuming other people's content, living through them and their videos. I would kind of code it as, oh, this is inspiring me. I was using it as a way for manifestation almost, and that was kind of like my way of justifying it. It was keeping me from living my own life. I would turn down invitations with my friends or just like people who would invite me to things, and I'd be like, no, I'm busy, I have things to do. But really, what did I have to do? Like, I was sitting scrolling on TikTok. I didn't have anything to do. It just caused me so much nervousness about living my own life. Like, I couldn't go to things, I couldn't do things unless I felt like I knew how all the interactions were gonna go and how everything was gonna go. And I think that's in part because like you're just seeing these people live like these perfect lives, but it's not really that, and you're thinking like, oh, well, once I have everything figured out in my life, then I can go live my life. That mindset is kind of what it put me in. I was searching for answers in other people's videos, waiting for this one video to come across where I was gonna actually figure out my life, but spoiler alert, I never found that video. It never came across my feed where it just made everything in my life make sense. That never happened. And another thing about it too is I would just reach for my phone, go on TikTok whenever I was having really strong feelings or like emotions. Like I was feeling really anxious, really fearful about something. I would just reach for my phone, and I feel like that's kind of like so silly because really that is the thing that's creating the anxiety and the fear. When you're in that loop of just like reaching for your phone whenever you are feeling a feeling that you don't really like. Anytime I would feel any kind of boredom, I would just go on my phone. I wouldn't even sit with my emotions and feel my emotions. Like I would just go on my phone and I would just scroll on TikTok in hopes that there'd be some sort of tarot reader on there or some sort of video that would just help me, basically. Like I was using it as a form of therapy and just comfort, essentially. Obviously, another big impact of this was my attention span shrunk so much. A lot of times I wouldn't even finish like a whole video ever. Like I would always just like barely read it. Like if it was words, I'd barely read it and just scroll and scroll and scroll. It put me in this headspace of kind of like, I was just waiting for something to save me from the outside, and then once that thing were to save me, then I could start being my best self and start doing things and start living my life. Not to say that you can't find good advice on social media and you can't take inspiration from people on social media. Talking more about the constant consumption, the mindless consumption, especially on TikTok. If you're on your For You page, it's not just people that you're following. I think that those videos, you're like, oh, I'll just scroll to the next one, that it doesn't have an impact on you, but oh, it does. And at the time, I really didn't think that like me consuming was the issue in my life. Like I didn't think that this was the problem. Coming off of TikTok, I realized that it kind of was, and quitting it was basically like the catalyst for me to start taking other measures in my life that drastically improved my life. I thought it was other things in my life that needed fixing first, and then once those things were fixed, then I wouldn't feel the need to scroll as much, but it turns out it was actually the other way around, and I had to save myself. And it's true that nothing was coming along from just watching videos. Here's when the turning point came. For a really, really long time, I had wanted to quit going on TikTok. Like, I'd known that I had like this kind of like addictive tendency towards it. There had been some times where I'd quit for like a couple of days because I just wanted to see if I could. Like, okay, I did it for a couple of days, so now I can just go back on it, and the cycle would repeat and repeat and repeat. So at that point, I just thought that I couldn't do it. Like, I thought that I just like needed TikTok and that it was fine, and it was just like part of something that I had to do to stay in connection with what was going on in the world and to just like feel okay. Every time I would go on, I could literally feel my brain pouring out of my ears. But then one magical day, it all changed. The day after the elections. So that was like in November. I had scrolled on TikTok for 8 hours that day. 8. That is a whole working day, which is like actually truly insane. This is when I realized that this was a coping mechanism for me. I seriously had to quit. And that's kind of when it all changed. Like literally the next day, I just completely stopped. I wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna try to not go on as long. I'm just gonna do a couple days detox. The next day, I was like, I'm going to quit and I'm never gonna go back on it again was kind of my intention. I never had the intention at that point to quit for a little bit and then go back to it. I just basically forced myself to stop cold turkey, which is insane. But I know myself, and I know that if I had given myself just like, oh, I'll just go on for a little bit, that it wouldn't have worked, because I would have just gone back on it for hours and hours and hours. It had to be just like a complete stop. So that's what I did. And these were kind of my rules for quitting, completely quit, right? Like that was my rule, was that I just couldn't go on it at all. I allowed myself to still go on Pinterest and on YouTube. So those were my two where I was like, I'm still gonna allow myself to go on those, and those were kind of like my social media outlets where I could still feel connected. Because the biggest reason I didn't want to quit TikTok also was I felt like I would just be disconnected from everything that was going on in the world. I wanted to know what's current, all that kind of stuff. But honestly, getting off it's gonna make you more connected, okay? I allowed myself to just watch like really long form content, essentially like on YouTube. I would just watch vlogs, but usually I would be like watching a vlog and on TikTok, and like I'd have a movie on in the background, like so many forms of content all at once that I just wasn't even paying attention to like any one thing. So I cut it down and made myself just watch like just a YouTube video, and I would make myself do one form of content at a time. So like if I was watching YouTube, I would just watch YouTube. No phone, no anything else. Or if I was watching a movie, I would just watch a movie. There was no like scrolling on TikTok while watching a movie, which is something I would always do. Obviously, this was definitely difficult for my brain to process, and it did make me feel kind of crazy in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie. I think this is why most people don't actually go through with cutting it out. The first, I would say, 2 weeks were like really, really bad. It was pretty intense, like rocking back and forth in the corner a little bit. And so I would say, if you do this, just know the first 2 weeks are gonna be like, your brain's gonna be like, what is going on? Like, you just cut off my source of quick dopamine. Things that I did to fill my time, I would just go on really, really long walks, like 5-mile walks. So that would take up like 2 hours of my day. I do workout classes too. Still was not, like I was doing that stuff but while I was on TikTok too, so this still was not quite enough for my brain. Yeah, I just really want to emphasize how hard those 2 weeks are. But I promise, once you get over that, it is like you finally start to see a whole new world. Pretty crazy. I started really noticing a difference in myself a month in. So this is how to do it like organically. There really isn't any shortcut. Yeah, I mean, I really had serious withdrawal symptoms, but I tried to fill my time with like those things that I enjoyed doing, like going for walks, going to yoga, just watching vlogs, Pinterest boarding. But I was already doing that stuff before, so it was like, it wasn't really taking away that edge. And you kind of just have to get through that, like to push through those first 2 weeks, because your brain's adapting. Your brain's like, what's going on? That's the dip before you get to the other side. And I think this is why most people don't follow through with it, is because of those, and that first initial like 1 to 2 weeks is like pretty crazy. And when I initially got off it, I was like, okay, I've been off TikTok for 1 day now, like why don't I feel so much better? I feel worse. The thing that I started doing during that time was journaling, because now I was kind of able to completely feel all my emotions and feelings that I had been pushing down by just consuming content, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I could finally, like, I had time to sit with my emotions now. And journaling is gonna be your best friend. The way that I did it, I just have like a Google Doc with just like a bunch of journaling on it, because that's a lot quicker to me. Like, I feel like I can do brain to out written down so much faster if I'm typing it out rather than if I'm writing it with a pen. It takes a lot longer, and for me, I just wasn't at that point where I could write down on paper. So I would just type it in a Google Doc, because you can just quickly, like, whatever you're thinking in your brain, just get it out like super duper quick and just kind of write from your subconscious like as quickly as you can. I started doing daily gratitude journaling as well. I'd say that change does happen pretty gradually. It was after 3 to 4 weeks that I actually started to notice that I was changing how I was living and how I was showing up for myself. I was starting to say yes to going to things, which was huge for me. This was basically because I had freed up my time, and I was finally like feeling bored, and I just like had the energy now to go actually do things in my life. And I also just feel like my social skills just got better. My social anxiety in particular just like felt so much better, because when I would go out, I didn't feel the need to be perfect or to like always say the right things. Like, when I was so addicted to social media, I just felt the need to, like, I had to be perfect to go out into the world, and I had to always say the right things in conversations, and what is this person gonna say to me and how am I gonna respond, and it just all had to be perfect before. And now there was no need to be perfect or to say the right things. I started doing was, and this was, I think, because I was finally off TikTok, I started to meditate really regularly. This is something I never would have done before, because I just kind of thought that, oh, it wouldn't change anything for me. Like, it wouldn't make me feel better. Like, how could that really make me feel better? Just how I thought that getting off TikTok wouldn't make me feel better, but it did. And so did meditation. But again, with the meditation, I will say in the beginning, it's like very hard to just kind of sit there and sit still. And it's honestly, it's kind of annoying in the beginning when your brain is still getting used to just kind of like slowing down and going inward. I was able to stay consistent with it, and it did get better with time. And I was only able to stay consistent with it, I think, because I had quit TikTok and I had proved to myself that I could do that. It's the same thing with meditation, with TikTok. It was like after one time I meditated, I was like, why don't I feel better? Like, why am I not completely my highest self right now? Now that it's been 4 months, right? It's February, all of November, all of December, all of January, all of February. Yeah, it's been 4 months that I've been completely off TikTok. Here's some realizations that I've had. I realized how much TikTok caused me to be self-conscious and created like the sense of anxiety in me and who I am, and an inability to live my own life because it's not perfect and because I don't feel like perfect all the time. It seemed like everyone that I watched on social media, they were doing things once they felt perfect or once they had certain things in their life, then they went out and did things. But it is really truly the other way around. You have to go out and do things and go live your life to feel better. Like, it really, really is that. And I also just all the time felt like there was gonna be this magical moment when I felt like I was gonna be ready to live my life and to do things and to be creative. But it turns out that time is right now. And it just felt like I needed to know the outcome of everything that was gonna happen before it happened. So it put me in this state of freeze, waiting for everything to be perfect enough or good enough. But now, I don't need everything to be perfect. I don't need to know the outcome of a situation before I go into it. And, you know, I can just show up as me and how I am. And every time you show up for yourself and meet yourself where you are, exactly where you are with what you have, I mean, that's growth. Every time you do that, you're growing and you're getting better. And so it basically caused me to have a complete mindset shift, like, in life, and just to kind of go from this consumer mindset to creator mindset. And I really think you do kind of have to decide which you want to be, if you want to be the consumer or if you want to be the creator. I think there's like limits to it. Like, obviously, if you have people that you follow that you feel really connected to and inspired by, then 100%. I still have those people that I feel that way with. And I feel like as long as they're not making you feel bad about yourselves, I really don't think there is anything wrong with that. And I finally just felt like I could be more creative and like my life mattered. I was allowed to take up space just the way that I am. Like, I don't have to have the things that other people have. And it just kind of takes away this whole need to compare yourself to other people. And it just made me so much more confident in my life and just in myself and my abilities and my strengths, because I wasn't comparing everything that I'm doing to what other people are doing as much. And obviously I still feel negative feelings at times, just like I did before when I would just go and pick up my phone whenever I was feeling those negative feelings. It's just that now I think I can handle them better, and you will be able to handle them better once you kind of pull back from social media. And I think that for me, it came from the mix of meditating and journaling and exercising. Those were my outlets. Now I had just created these healthier ways of coping with my emotions. Instead of picking up my phone, I would journal my feelings, or I would meditate, or I would go for a walk, or I would go take a workout class, or I would call a friend, or something like that, where normally I would have just gone and picked up my phone. So basically completely changed how I reacted to my own emotions and how I react to other people, and basically how I show up for myself in everyday life. So after 4 months of no TikTok, I can honestly say that I feel so much clearer. I have more clarity. I feel more present in my everyday life. I genuinely don't have cravings to go on the app anymore like I did when I was detoxing. I had first thought that I would feel really disconnected. Instead, hello? That's my dog. She just opened my door. And at first I thought I'd feel so disconnected from everyone and everything that was going on in the world. It actually freed up so much time to focus on myself and bettering myself. And I say all this just because I want everybody to feel better and emotionally and mentally. And I think we just don't really realize how big of an impact that serious consumption of social media. This has been my experience with it. I hope that this will maybe make you want to take a break, try it out. I think that you're gonna be really happy with the results, especially once you look back and you realize just how much it was pretty much taking over your life like it was mine. If you were an intense consumer like I was, you deserve to focus on your life and feel good in yourself, not compare yourself to other people. Just feel more clear in who you are. You should 100% try a detox. I think it will improve your life so much, even beyond what you think that it could. And also, here's my dog. And she says good luck in your social media detox and that you can do it. You can do it, you can do anything you set your mind to. Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching.